Welcome to Bosch Security Systems Telex Radio Dispatch CSoft 6.1 New Features and Options. CSoft 6.1 will offer the following new features and improvements: enhanced graphic options, updated motor turbo control windows and buttons, improved Nina audio handling and new control features, increased vocoder selection to 4, new designer features and options, new frequency control change buttons, and Moto Turbo and DFSI P25 control buttons. Let's take a look at what's new in 6.1. Presented here is a design operating in CSoft version 5.4. Shown here, the same design has been updated using 6.1. In the following slides, we will cover how these steps were completed. Frames, new to CSoft 6.1, can be added to any design. They allow color backgrounds or bitmap images to be inserted anywhere on the design independent of the global settings. Shown here, a frame has been set up to include a bitmap file on the design. Shown here, frames were added and given a different background color than the global design. This provided a field for control buttons independent of the normal button area. Shown here, additional frames were set up as borders to define the previously configured frame areas. In CSoft Designer, frames may be added by either right-clicking on the design field or from the Insert Add Frame tab. A frame box has now been added to the CSoft design. Right-clicking on that frame box will provide you the frame setup window. From there, border width or border color can be modified. Frames also support bitmaps. To use a bitmap, check Use Bitmap, click Browse, find the appropriate bitmap file, click OK. Additional graphic changes include the ability to take bitmap logos and stretch them to completely fill the background screen. A new button style was added, Glossy REC for Glossy Rectangle, giving a total of 4 to choose from in your CSoft design. Presented here is a view of the classic versus glossy rectangle button types. Since its release in CSoft version 5.3, the Moto Turbo window has looked like this. With 6.1, it has been updated to a more standardized format, allowing better use of screen space and touchscreen operation. We will cover these in the next slides. The updated Moto Turbo control window has all the primary controls like select, mute, various PTT buttons, ID, channel, zone, volume control on the primary main control screen. Unit control, text message, and history are available via tab. Keypad and ID list are available on slide-out windows. This view of the main control screen shows good connectivity to the MTRBI using SOIP, indicated by the green LED on the lower line. The channel and zone information have been uploaded from the radio. Unit IDs are presented on the right-hand pull-out window. Seen here, Unit 3000 was selected from the right-hand field and now populates the unit ID. The unit control screen offers remote radio functions like radio check, disable, enable, monitor, and call alert. GPS functions are also located here. New in 6.1, GPS reads are automatically sent to subscriber units that declare emergencies. From the text message screen, either individual or group messages can be sent. They can include free-floating text or quick text formats. The history screen will display calls based on date, time, frequency, status, user ID, and call type. Additionally, emergency acknowledge, alert cancel, and private calls are generated from this screen. 6.1 now requires a dedicated Moto Turbo window for each line under MTRBI control. This is a change from earlier versions. Please note this in any updates to your current designs. The new Moto Turbo window adds additional configurability not available before. You can now change colors or text per button. To configure the Moto Turbo window button color and text, press the Dispatch Window Configuration button. The Moto Turbo configuration screen will now open. This will allow you to change any button color, text, or background color. Selecting any button will open up a setup screen. Here you can select up, down color, text color, and the text on the button. Additionally, any button may be disabled. Additionally, 6.1 supports 250 Moto Turbo zones per line. Moto Turbo lines now function properly using enunciation buttons. This is a fix from previous versions. Early versions of Moto-Turbo mobiles and MTRBIs had an issue with emergencies not correctly clearing out of the Moto-Turbo mobile. This has been fixed. The MTRBI will need to be updated. Please contact tech support for assistance with this. Additionally, the Moto-Turbo mobile will need to be reconfigured. We will cover this in the next slide. For emergency off to function correctly in your Moto-Turbo mobile, you'll need to configure P1 as shown to emergency off. Additional 80 HB4 audio controls have been added since version 5.3. Right-clicking on the 80 HB4 icon will open an 80 HB4 control screen. The following slides will cover these new features. In previous versions, Nina audio could not be heard unless a headset was plugged in. Now, by checking the Route Nina audio to select speaker, audio can be heard without a headset attached. Additional Nina audio control buttons were added since 5.3. The following slides will cover these features. The Nina on-off hook button allows you to manually change the Nina state. This operates in parallel to the Nina logic on the RJ12 connector on the rear of the unit. The Nina input indicator will give you a visual indication of being off hook on a Nina call. This would be in parallel to the 80 HB4 front panel icon. The Nina mute button allows dispatchers to mute Nina RX levels to the headset or speaker if selected. Nina volume control adjusts the Nina RX levels to the headset. This is a critical volume control required with CSoft and 80 HB4s, as Nina audio now goes to CSoft and back down to the HB4. The Nina hold button places the Nina call to a hold status, muting the microphone to the Nina line. This is only with inside the dispatch position. No logic is presented to the Nina phone system. These new buttons are not required in your design. The Nina volume control is highly suggested and will provide better audio quality. A new one-touch button was created to control select audio to the select speaker if both headset and speaker operation are required. A microphone control option was added to the 80 HB4 control window. You can now override the internal programming of the 80 HB4 using this pull-down menu to select which microphone you want to use. The same functionality can also be accomplished with a new button called 80 HB4 Mic Control, allowing one-touch operation between two mic inputs. Here, on the Mic Control Setup button tab, you can see that the up state has been set to controller or main unit, and the down state has been set to desk mic. The number of vocoders increased to 4 with the addition of G726 32 KB and G711 64 KB. Please note, only the network recorder and IP224 support these new vocoders. To better support networks with transport issues, the packet delay before playback field has been increased from 29 to 64, allowing for a total time of 1.28 seconds worth of packets to be stored per line before playback. The autofill functions with inside the per line setup window have been improved. Now line type, packet delay, and vocoder type can be programmed within each group. Additionally, the ability to select which fields would be filled in per group has been added. The ability to automatically mute a line when not in the selected state has been added. Check the mute line when unselected for this feature. The ability for a multi-freq radio to revert to its previous frequency after a page is sent has been added. Check the page frequency revert box if this feature is required. A zero talk time will automatically revert the line to its previous frequency. In previous versions of CSoft, incoming phone lines would ring in the dispatcher's headset. The ability has been added for incoming phones to now ring in the unselect speaker. The ring in unselect speaker option should be checked if this feature is desired. In previous versions, pop-up window backgrounds could be changed. With this release version, a bitmap can be inserted as a background to a pop-up button. In the following slides, we will see what kind of graphic effect it can have on your design. In the top left of this design are a number of pop-up buttons. Pressing the pop-up button will open a visual map. Here, the various RF channels are located in pop-up buttons around the airport terminal. In addition to our traditional freq change buttons, we have added a frequency control feature. The following slides will cover configuration and operation of this new feature. Once the button type and line to associate with have been selected, click the Colors tab. You can now choose horizontal or vertical alignment. the border color, the arrow size, up-down colors, background color, and text color. The button's fonts parameters can be configured using the Set Font button. The Frequency Control tab allows you to configure the frequency list position and scroll settings. Here is a view of the Frequency Control button in runtime. You can see the up-down scroll buttons, the name presented in the middle. If you press the name, a menu will open. You can manually select a frequency from this list. Improvements to the per-line frequency setup screen are the following. The maximum frequency name has increased from 12 to 20 characters, and the total number of frequencies has increased from 100 to 1000 when talking to an IP224. IP223 operation is still limited to 100 frequencies. The maximum number of digits allowed in a DTMF page have increased from 10 to 16. New in 6.1 is the ability to add a VU meter at a per-line level. Select UI element function VU meter and associate it with the desired line. The VU meter control tab allows you to select horizontal or vertical alignment and the background color. Here we can see the line while receiving. The VU meter is displayed below the instant push-to-talk button. The maximum number of launch application buttons has been increased from 10 to 64. Additionally, an auto start feature was added for this button type. Additional help menus have been added in 6.1. Right-click the telex icon in the upper left-hand corner for access. Additional features have been added to the About Runtime window. You can also reset and set your default veg file. In the About CSoft Runtime window is a new icon called License Info. Press this button to view all license keys available to this dispatch position. This position shows both an 80HB4 SIP key and a local CSoft key installed and available for operation. This functionality replaces the key reader application. New in 6.1, radio command buttons, allowing dispatchers to send commands to a specific user or a group of users. The radio command button comprises of two individual buttons, the command button and the drop-down menu selection button. Clicking on the drop-down button will cause a drop-down list to display. This list will contain all configured users and groups for the specified line. Select the desired unit. The desired unit's name will now populate the command button. Press the command button to send the command. GPS read is used to query the current GPS coordinates of the selected radio. This functionality is only supported in Moto Turbo radios. GPS trigger off button is used to stop the periodic GPS coordinate updates from the selected radio. This functionality is supported in Moto Turbo radios. The GPS trigger on button is used to start the periodic GPS coordinate updates from the selected radio. This is a Moto Turbo only function. The radio check button is used to send a message to units in the field to check to see if they are turned on. This functionality is currently supported only in Moto Turbo and DFSI lines. The radio disable button is used to disable a radio in the field from use by unauthorized persons. This functionality is currently supported only on Moto Turbo and DFSI lines. The radio enable button is used to re-enable any radio that has been disabled. This functionality is currently supported only on Moto Turbo and DFSI lines. The radio status request button is used to send a message requesting status from a unit in the field. This functionality is currently supported only on Moto Turbo and DFSI lines. The radio call alert button is used to send an alert message to the selected radio. This functionality is only supported on Moto Turbo and DFSI lines. The radio remote monitor button is used to remotely key up and present microphone audio for the selected radio for monitoring purposes. This functionality is currently supported only on Moto Turbo and DFSI lines. The Group PTT button is used to call a specific talk group. This functionality is currently supported only on Moto Turbo and DFSI lines. The Private PTT button is used to call an individual radio. This functionality is currently supported only on Moto Turbo and DFSI lines. To add a radio command function button to your design, right-click anywhere on your design from the menu Add Select Button. Right-click on the new button, select Properties. Now define the correct button type in the UI element function window and associate with the correct line. Radio command buttons can be defined either to a specific line or a button global to the entire design. Check Global Radio button if it is desired that this button be used by all lines in the design. The Colors tab will allow you to configure the radio command buttons up-down button color and button text. Also, the drop-down menu position can be selected. The Options tab of the radio command button allows configuration of the button's drop-down menu colors, spacing, and scrolling. Also supported, if desired, the ability for password protection on this specific button. New in 6.1, a filter for UI element buttons. Easily allow you to find a button type based on the desired function. From the Filter drop-down menu, select the desired feature. We have selected Paging Only for this demonstration. Now, the UI element function window is presented with paging only functions to select from. Other changes made in 6.1. CSoft is now Windows 7 64-bit compliant. Master select, unselect, and Nina volume positions are now saved when CSoft closes. The enhanced SIP library has been corrected and now functions properly with 3 CX servers. The Run button CSoft location can now be selected. Added the ability to generate an emergency call from the select list. Change the location and size of CSoft crossmutes.txt. Previously, it was limited to 20. Now, 100 console IP addresses are supported. CSoft runtime can be started from Designer by pressing the blue play button. Bitmaps and enunciation files now use absolute addressing and no longer need to be stored in the CSoft root directory. Lastly, the CSoft console will not initiate any audible alarm when receiving an emergency call if the design doesn't have any emergency associated UI elements included. Thanks for taking time to listen to the new features and improvements to CSoft 6.1.